in breaking his track record in pretty significant fashion, right up until the last few minutes of the session when David Donohue ran a faster time to set the new track record and win his third pole position of the season. But Jon, after 7 victories last year, including one here at Mid-Ohio, the season hasn't quite gone the way of the Gainesville Bob Stallings team. Tell us how you're turning it around for this year.
We're trying. We're trying everything we got, giving it our all. But yeah, I feel a little bad. I feel like I didn't do the team in Pontiac justice. With resurfacing and resealing this track, it takes a long time for the pace to come. So I knew it was going to be important for us to be around at the end of qualifying, and on my fourth flyer, I completely destroyed my right front tire, locked it up coming off the back straightaway, so that was the end of my run. So I feel bad about that, but I think there's more potential in the car than what we saw in qualifying, I think. But it's a good job for these guys. I didn't realize that's their third of the year. That's enough for you. Share. And yeah, exactly. Qualifying's great, but as we've seen with a lot of interesting strategies this year in the Rolex Series, qualifying position hasn't been all that critical. But it's always nice to have pole, and I'm sure you feel great about it.
David, Darren was telling me that the engineers didn't like something they saw in the data, and that's why you changed engines during the lunchtime and missed most of the second practice session. Given that the engine changed, were you kind of concerned about qualifying and your chances at the pole?
Well, sure, because in the first practice we also had a wheel bearing failure, an upright. The guys had to change an upright. That's why we spent most of the time in the garage for the practice as well. So Darren and I both each maybe have 4 fast, relatively hot laps. As Jon mentioned, for whatever reason, it seems to take forever to get the car up and going, and to the tune of 3-4 laps sometimes. So yeah, we're very pleasantly surprised. We really haven't done much to the car because we haven't had the opportunity to do much to the car. So it's almost the way it rolled off the truck.
So you feel we're in pretty good shape for the race tomorrow?
Well, I don't know about that. We've been qualifying well. Our worst starting position this year is 4th. Yet we have yet to kind of convert that to a win, and we finished 2nd at the 6 hour. But I think most of us on the team that actually have our hands on the car were rather disappointed in 2nd, to be honest with you. So we're looking to win. We're not looking for 2nd.
Questions for our front row starters?
Some question I posed to the GT guys. What is it that you like about this track, and what do you find most challenging?
It's technical. There's a lot of corners that are linked. They come in pretty quick succession, especially off the back straightaway. Right, left, and right. Just that whole section is really fun. So it's demanding on a lot of fronts. You have to be pretty aggressive. Through there, and then there's some quick corners, and you got to have some finesse here and there. So it takes a lot from a driver, a lot of different techniques, and the new surface is definitely interesting. It's very strange. Same for everybody, but trying to figure out how to make the most of it is a big challenge for us and the engineers.
I think an interesting part of this is for how many turns there are, how many brake zones, and how many shifts. We're 2,000ths of a second off of each other.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty lucky for me, I think.
You say the surface is strange. Anything you can put your finger on?
No, I mean every region, has their local contractors and concrete suppliers and resealers, and so every track has its own kind of unique deal. And I really don't know what it is. I haven't been able to go out there on foot and visually look and see what it is. It feels like it's really smooth, like really tiny aggregate or something.
At Watkins Glen, where we just came from, there was sealer that looked similar, but you actually did anything you could to get onto the sealer, and here you can't avoid it, and there's no grip there. And I think what Jon's alluding to in a very PC way is the sealer in the corners lacks feedback. So you go in there, you turn in, you think you have something under braking, you think you have something on turning, you get on the sealer, it's like, oh, what did I do? And somehow you make it around in the first 3-4 laps. are the worst because your tires aren't up. You get the pressures up, but you can't get the temperature in the tire.
It's very strange.
And then for our first session, for the few laps we did, we kept pressuring the tires wrong because they kept building pressure, but the temperature wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it's like you got one thing, but you don't have the other, and then you're dealing with the sealer and then the non-sealer. It's just throwing a lot of curveballs at us at the moment, especially coming off of a track that was so incredibly different when it came to the pavement surface. How's that?
Yeah. Well, good.
Any more questions? Yes, sir.
For David, you set your fastest lap on lap 9. Can you speak a little bit about how the Pirellis had an impact on that?
The Pirellis had no impact on that. The traffic had impact on that. If you look at the lap times, there's a fast one, a slow one, a fast because I kept catching traffic and I had to somehow create a gap. And I think there's probably more in it, as I'm sure John does. If I could just string a couple together and figure out what the car really wants and what the track really wants. But with the few laps we got this morning and such screwed up traffic in qualifying, we're just kind of throwing whatever we could at it. The tires just held in for that number of laps.
There's very little wear on the tires. I know that much. I mean, seems like you run one pair for the whole race. Can you hear me? Okay.
I don't know if they're recording.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Thank you very much, gentlemen.